Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Devin Jackson with Blue Chip Scouting. Today, I'm joined by Matt Valdovinos, one of my good friends on Draft Twitter and a Washington Commanders fan. Matt, how you doing today, man? And thanks for taking the time to join the show.
Absolutely, absolutely. When you asked me, I knew I was going to want to come on and, just love talking ball with you. And I actually don't get to talk about the Commanders that often. Usually it's a lot of just draft stuff. So it is nice to get to be on the team perspective of it for a little bit. But I'm definitely, I'm grateful you asked me on. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm just really happy to talk ball.
Yeah, man, talking ball is one of the greatest things to talk about, and with you, what's been going on with you in this draft cycle, and what kind of have you been up to?
Mhm.
From a coverage perspective, because obviously, you've not at PFN anymore, but
Yeah.
you're doing your own thing now.
Yeah. Well, I had a couple of good friends start doing a podcast a couple years ago, and it's called the Straight Facts Podcast, and they just talk about all about sports, but mostly football and basketball. And it started getting some traction, started doing well lately. LeVar Arrington's company brought them in as a part of their podcast network, and so he works with them on making the show bigger, getting them some connects and stuff. So it was, I thought, a nice opportunity to get on and still have somewhere to outlet some of my draft content, but not such an overbearing workload. Like, not that I was doing a ton of like even full-time level stuff at PFN, but it was a lot. And so try to balance that with work in college was just a lot. And I'm still, my dream isn't necessarily to be a draft analyst. Not that I wouldn't love to be one long term. If that was in my future, I wouldn't say no. But my long term dream is to be a GM of a team, is to work my way up through a front office. And so I still have to go get my degree to do that. So doing the Straight Facts podcast, they help me outlet some of my opinions, get good videos up there. I've got good chemistry with the guys, and I think it's a good show that's got a lot of chance to grow in the future, and so I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, man,
And
absolutely.
then
That
getting that degree.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely understand that 100%, and obviously, trying to get the degree and balance school and some of the
Yeah,
outside
yeah.
work. I'm sure it's a lot.
And I'm not at school like Penn State, so I bet it's not even nearly as hard.
Yeah, for sure. But obviously, we're here to talk about the Washington Commanders.
Mhm.
They've had quite an interesting offseason. Obviously, they traded for Carson Wentz, so maybe quarterback is not necessarily on the table at 11. But there's a few guys in the discussion. I know you would love to see a Kyle Hamilton per se
Yes, sir.
fall
That's the
to the
dream.
Commanders. It may be one of those top receivers. So as you look at the Commanders as a whole in this draft class, what are you expecting them to target?
Well, I think it's. I had mentioned earlier to you and some friends how I think it's really a small group of people of players that are actually going to go to the team at 11. The team's even going to consider at 11. And I think it's Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London, Kyle Hamilton, Sauce Gardner, and Derek Stingley. I just think that as far as Hamilton, Stingley, and Gardner, those are just kind of blue chip talents. Those are, no pun intended, but those are guys who just elite talent. And with Stingley and Gardner specifically at a very premium position, like it's important to have lockdown cornerbacks in today's NFL. And if you can get that on a rookie deal, that's super important and very big and very helpful to a team. And even though cornerback might not be the biggest need, that's why I could see that happening, right? Like if Sauce is there at 11, I could 100% see Ron Rivera wanting his Josh Norman, his, Jack Del Rio getting his Aqib Talib. They've always had guys. So I could definitely see that. But I think it's really going to come down to the best receiver on the board versus Kyle Hamilton if he's there at 11. And a lot of people have been talking about that slide. I think it's very possible. And I think even more likely for, Commander fans that want to see Hamilton come to the team and get drafted. It's a good sign if more receivers go early. I think Atlanta could go Garrett Wilson at 8 and Drake London would then go to the Jets at 10. Like that seems very possible to me at this point. And maybe even you could flip them, but I still think Wilson will be the first wide receiver off the board. If that happens, that not only obviously pushes Kyle Hamilton down the board, but Atlanta and the Jets are two teams that people think, okay, maybe they could go Kyle Hamilton. So you eliminate them, and then also Washington's maybe top two receivers on their board are gone. So then you're weighing Kyle Hamilton versus Chris Olave. I know they really, really do like Chris Olave, so maybe they would still go Olave, but I think ultimately they would take Hamilton, just take that kind of blue chip talent, and then try and get a wide receiver in the second round. But I wouldn't be upset with any of the guys I named. I'd be very comfortable with any of those picks. Even Chris Olave, I think, is maybe a little early for him, but I just think with what he does and how mature he is, I also think underrated ability as a deep threat. I think will really play well with what they want to do offensively and with Carson Wentz specifically.
For sure. Had some comments come in as you were talking. Mike Hernishin tuning in,
Hey,
saying what's up to us. Tyler Browning as well. He said draft Ritter. So it's
thank
obviously
God. I
not
think the
going to
Steelers.
happen.
Someone's got to take him before round 2. Hopefully.
Yeah, personally to me, I think Tennessee might be in the market for
I
a
think the
quarterback,
Steelers like
but
him too. I was talking to Nick Farabaugh.
yeah, so we'll see what happens with that, and then more kickers as well is another.
Yeah, all these NFC East fans, man, they want to see me lose.
Absolutely, got Cowboys and Eagles in the chat, but without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and pull up the mock draft simulator here as I share my screen to go through the simulator. And can you? No, that is not it. All right, Chrome tab. There we go. All right, you should be able to see it now. Can you see it, Matt?
Yep.
Cool. All right, so we're gonna go through on NFL mock draft database.com using the simulator Washington Commanders as we talked about at the top of the show, and we are gonna go ahead and get the draft started. And like you said, we'll see if we'll see a Kyle Hamilton slide or not, just depending on what happens here. But so far, so good. Uh,
Oh,
oh, and
and
well,
there it is. Um,
and as always, I'm gonna obviously ask and look at the
mhm.
board and see who else is on the board
Absolutely,
for
as
sure.
we
But
should, as we should. We're going to use this entire draft clock. But and one thing I do want to mention is that there could be a possibility that a team like the Steelers trade up in this situation with Malik Willis at 11 still there.
yeah,
Just because I know they like them. I don't anticipate this happening. I've been told that the Seahawks are very, very much in on Malik Willis. So we'll see. But I do think that in this situation, if this is how the board falls, um, that they'll be really, really torn between Kyle Hamilton and Drake London. I don't necessarily think that this would be a lock in for Hamilton. I think they want to add a receiver very, very badly. I think if the first pick is not a receiver, you can lock in the second pick to be a receiver. Um, I know that Garrett Wilson, Drake London, and Chris Olave would all have very, very much a say in this, but I think because all three of them are at the pick, that they would still probably lean towards Kyle Hamilton. I just think it's hard to convince Ron Rivera not to take a defensive player of that caliber. But any of the guys would make sense. They want to, like I said, upgrade that pass offense. Drake London would have a very defined role, I think, instantly, and I think he's probably the best running mate with Terry because I think Chris Olave does a little bit of what he does. But all our options, and maybe they would even consider Jameson Williams, but I don't think they would.
yeah, I think with here at 11, I mean, just how the board fell, I'm kind of surprised that he even made this slide because you look at who was selected ahead of him, and
Mhm.
it wasn't there was no quarterback that potentially pushed him down the board or any surprise pick really in within that top 10. I mean, Derek Stingley could be a surprise per se
Mhm.
to some people just due to the injury history, but like you said, Kyle Hamilton is available, and it's a slam dunk. You have to take him here at 11. But yeah, just surprised on how that board fell. But the next pick won't be until the second round
47.
here in 47. And now that you got Kyle Hamilton on
Mhm.
in hand, where do you look next, or where would you be targeting next for the Commanders?
Yeah, I think, like I said, if they're not, if Kyle Hamilton does fall and they take him or they take one of the cornerbacks, you can probably write in Sharpie that they're going to take a receiver, unless the only thing I could see is like an absurd slide from, one of the linebackers, or if there's a quarterback they absolutely love, like, if their top quarterback was Corral or Howell and they make it all the way to 47, like that would make sense. But yeah, I think here they're going to look and make sure, there's a receiver on the board they really like. Um, my guess would be someone they've been in touch with a lot. They, I believe, interviewed at the combine and then also brought in for a top 30 visit. Alabama's John Mechie. Kind of just fits what they want in a receiver, someone who's going to be able to create some natural separation. He's a good route runner and still a solid athlete, even though he's coming off that leg injury. but can get downfield, make plays downfield, and can play with Carson Wentz and create a little bit of chemistry. I think then you can let Terry come down, make more plays underneath. The slants, the underneath are things he's really, really good at, and because he can create a lot of yards after the catch. But unfortunately, that's not what they necessarily want to do. They want to push the ball down the field, and if Terry's the only weapon, it's going to be his job to do it. But getting a guy like John Mechie, I think, can kind of play off of that and give you some workability as the Z and both the X.
Absolutely, but one question here: you talked about
Mm-hmm.
linebacker and someone maybe sliding. Devin Lloyd
Yep.
is available here at 47. Do you think he's a scheme fit for the Commanders, or would you still go Matchy here, despite him being on the board?
I think so. My only question with the linebacker thing is, would him and Kyle Hamilton kind of butt heads in some of the role they would play, because Washington plays a lot of two linebacker with what they call a buffalo nickel, which is what Landon Collins did last year, who was kind of that hybrid linebacker safety. I think Kyle Hamilton would play a lot of that, and then Cam Crow would also do a lot of that, while Hamilton played off of the strong safety a little bit. But I just really think they really, really want to add a weapon. And so it's hard for me to imagine they won't take a wide receiver here. And so I think to try and play it as close to possible as what's going to happen on draft night, I would take John Mechie.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's just surprising to me at the
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
least that Devin Lloyd, has a 21 ranked player here on NFL mock draft .com. He's still and he didn't go until 64 there with
Mm.
the Denver Broncos, a team. I'm kind of surprised that the mocks still have him taking linebackers, but we'll kind of see what happens here. But the next pick here is until 113
Mm-hmm.
in round 4. So obviously we're going to see how the board falls. But now you got the safety and receiver that you expect the Commanders to go after here.
Yep.
Where do you turn to next? Do you go best pick available, or is there something or another position of need do you think they might address early in round 4?
Yeah, I think they're going to look for a couple of different positions. I think offensive line depth and defensive line depth are both kind of important. I think here at 113 specifically, they might look to target a running back. I think they really want someone to complement, or not even necessarily complement, but just to pair with Antonio Gibson, especially with JD McKissick coming off of a neck injury. You just need to add some there. So if like a Brian Robinson is here, maybe they would go that route. I also think, looking at the best players available with the defensive line and the edge rushers, maybe a Rashad White or Damian Pierce, um, Alex Wright. See, these are the kind of players I think that they would be looking to add, someone who that they can play off of Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Phil, for someone who's coming off of an injury. I also think a Rasheed Walker out of Penn State, if he's still on the board, would make a lot of sense here. So I'm thinking probably Damian Pierce. I really do think they want to add another running back. I think this makes sense. He's a bigger bodied guy. He can pair with Antonio Gibson, let Antonio Gibson become more of a high faceted back, maybe run some more plays out of the slot, get out, run some angle routes, and try to create space against the linebacker. Damian Pierce will take some of those heavy workloads off of him, those nasty yards. Antonio Gibson also had a little bit of a fumbling problem, so maybe you feel more comfortable on a 3rd and 1, a 3rd and 2, a 4th and 1 with Damian Pierce in there. And I also think you could run Damian Pierce and JD McKissick well together as well.
For sure, it's very interesting, kind of from your perspective, hearing kind of the needs, because obviously you hear a lot of talk on who the Commanders are going to take with their first pick at 11, but you don't really hear a lot of okay, where are some of their other needs down the line, or in kind of in the back of their mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
So adding a running back like Damian Pierce, obviously he had a big Senior Bowl guy that can pass protect, runs with power. Definitely a good compliment off of Antonio Gibson, who's more of the elusive, do it all type
Dynamic,
of
yep.
player, dynamic player.
Yeah, absolutely. And then JD McKissick as well. Maybe even get a little 3-back action, see if Scott Turner can get weird. I definitely wouldn't mind. I also think Pierre Strong is someone they could look at if they were going for running back. But now I think they're still going to look to target those depth positions on the line on either side, whether it's tackle, interior offensive line, interior defensive line, or edge. Looks like a lot of weapons slid.
Yeah, quite a few weapons here.
Yep.
Got Spencer Burford here a little bit further down the
Yep.
line.
And then I think are
Uh,
we in? Yeah, we're around 6. So yeah, we're
yeah,
you're really just looking for guys who are going to fit the scheme, who are going to maybe have some athletic upside, like an Austin Deculus. Maybe makes sense in round 7 if we get there.
look at
Logan Bruss,
the
Cade
interior
Mays,
offensive line.
Ben Brown,
Got D
even
line
maybe.
as well.
Ooh, David and I, that would actually make a little bit of sense, a little flex piece for that defensive line. And then
Let's look at the edge class
the
as
edge
well.
rushers, yep. Um, I think Barno probably makes more sense than Thomas, and I think he's probably just the best player that we looked at.
Mhm.
Washington had him in, but it wasn't for a top 30 visit. I think it was just because of the regional visits or whatever you get. But I know they want to fill out that defensive line depth, and I think Barno makes a lot of sense. Marty Herney, I know, or not Marty, sorry, Martin Mayhew was at the Virginia Tech Pro Day. So a lot of connections there, although I do think Jelani Woods maybe would also make a lot of sense as to why they would be there. I could definitely see them targeting a hyper athletic freak.
For sure. Went ahead and selected Amari Barno there. All right, two more picks here in the 7th round for the Commanders at 230 and 240. And you mentioned it, more depth on the line, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously 7th round known as the dart throw round. You just
Yep.
get guys that you think may pan out, but it's not a huge loss if they don't. So we'll see who's here at the top of the board. Got Ty Chandler, Spencer Burford, Makai Polk, EJ Perry, Dejon
Um,
Dixon, and Kobe Durant.
And it's funny that EJ Perry's there. What are the other quarterbacks on the board? Because I do think that a late day 3 quarterback is something that they'll be looking into. And honestly, I think that makes sense. I think he's someone Ron Rivera would be interested in. Um, this works. I think that Caleb Ellaby also makes a lot of sense. Obviously, not this late. I think he would go a little bit earlier.
Mhm.
But I think like I'm sorry, Carson Strong in the 4th, Caleb Ellaby in like the 5th, 6th, or an EJ Perry in the 7th, I think all makes sense for Washington. And I know they want to get a young guy. They only have Wentz and Taylor Heineke on the team right now, so I think this makes a lot of sense.
All right, gonna take EJ Perry here at 230. All right, 240. And got one more pick here in this 7th round mock draft for the Washington Commanders. Who will Matt Valdovinos take as this final pick here for the Commanders? Who you
Ooh.
looking at here on the board? Is there
Vincent Gray
someone?
grabs my eyes immediately. Just DB depth. They're kind of thin at cornerback. A Michigan guy, coached by Harbaugh, so he's going to come in and probably work with Rivera. Probably won't take too much to get accustomed to that type of coaching and team. So I think Vincent Gray would make a lot of sense.
All right, for sure. All right, drafted Vincent Gray, and we're gonna let this one run through before we kind of review, and take a look at the picks and kind of recap. But
Hey, man, yeah.
instant analysis from you. How you feeling about this draft and how it turned out?
I feel really good. I think it's very plausible that their actual class comes pretty close to this. Maybe you see a weapon go at 11 and then a DB in the 2nd round, but I do think that this is a very plausible Washington Commanders draft. I think they're connected to a lot of these players. They've mentioned that they want to, get better at these positions, and I just think it's going to be hard for Ron Rivera not to want to take that superstar in Kyle Hamilton. And then like I said, if they don't go receiver at 11, I'm almost certain they're going to go receiver at 47. And I think it's just 100% chance that they take him at one of those 2 spots. Could be a trade down to, something to look at. Like I said, if Malik Willis falls, if Kenny Pickett falls, they would be, that first team out of the top 10. So it's kind of like their pick if someone wants to come up and move up for them. But I do think that at least Willis is going to be gone. I anticipate him to go to Seattle. But if Kyle Hamilton makes it to 11, I think Washington's there. I know they like John Mechie. Damian Pierce, like we said, can play off of the running backs that they already have. Barno, just to fill out some of that edge depth, especially with Chase Young coming off that leg injury. They want to add a young quarterback, just someone to have in the building for whatever reason, whether it's for long-term backup or if everything goes to hell and Taylor Heineke's not working out, Carson Wentz got hurt, something like that. And then obviously just a Big Ten DB someone who's been coached by an NFL coach will come in. Ron Rivera will have a good time with him.
Absolutely. So just recapping the draft here. Kyle Hamilton at 11th overall from Notre Dame. John Mechie the third at 47. Second round from Alabama. Fourth round 113. Damian Pierce from Florida, the running back. 189. Mari Bono, the edge rusher from Virginia Tech in round 6. And then the 2 round 7 picks are EJ Perry from Brown, the quarterback, and Vincent Gray, the defensive back from Michigan. You talked about you feel this draft is going to be pretty close to what the Commanders end up doing. What do you give this class a grade of?
Probably like a BB plus. Unfortunately, they don't have a second round pick. They don't have a fifth round pick. Or sorry, they don't have a third round pick. They don't have a fifth round pick, and their second round pick is worse than it's supposed to be. So there's a very capped ceiling. And I also just think there's a lot of needs, specifically in the second and third levels in terms of their depth that need to be addressed that they just don't have enough picks to address. But we'll see. I feel really good about that. I feel good about Kyle Hamilton specifically. Like that's kind of the jewel of the draft class. I think maybe if they do go receiver at 11, they can address a more pressing need in the second round potentially. But I'm a big believer in just taking the best talent available. And I think Kyle Hamilton, if he's there at 11, will absolutely be the best talent available.
Absolutely, got to be ecstatic to get Hamilton in the building and someone that's a top 3 talent, maybe the top player in the draft at 11 is quite the steal, I would say. But thanks so much for joining me today, Matt Valdovinos, for joining me. Where can people find your work and where can people follow you on Twitter?
Absolutely. You can follow me on Twitter at MV Scouting. We always like to have a little bit of banter there, some back and forth. It's always a good time. I like to respond to everyone who talks and just talk ball, whether my opinion's right or wrong. It's always going to be a good time. And you can find my work specifically at the Straight Facts Podcast. Find them on Twitter or YouTube are the best plays. My YouTube video, we're doing a series of all my positional rankings, so you can go check them all out there.
For sure. Make sure you guys check it out and make sure to stay tuned for more of this mock draft series on Blue Chip Scouting's YouTube page. You can follow me on Twitter at RealD_Jackson. You can follow Blue Chip Scouting on Twitter at Blue Chip Scout. You can make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel for more of the mock draft series. We're entering the backstretch. I had the Browns earlier today with Corey Kinnan, obviously Matt Valdovinos here with the Commanders, and plenty of more throughout the week and leading into next week. But for now, I'm Devin Jackson signing off with Matt Valdovinos for the Washington Commanders 7th round mock draft.